From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Colorado's business climate is hurting. Over the past 18 months, Colorado lost more than 6,000 jobs. A CNBC ranking of top states for business saw Colorado slide from a top 10 position 4 years ago to 25th this year. And a coalition of tech and other business leaders recently issued a report warning that Colorado's high cost of living and excessive regulations are bad for business. Governor Jared Polis says he's addressing it. Last month, he launched a council to help make the state more competitive. And he directed the state's Economic Development Office, or OEDIT, to hold listening sessions with employers. But the governor's time to act is limited. His term ends in January. So, to learn more about how state leaders hope to quickly turn the tide, we're talking with Governor Polis and with Eve Lieberman. Eve is the executive director of OEDIT. Governor Polis, I'd like to start with you. In April, more than 200 local businesses and tech leaders issued an open letter warning that, quote, the foundation of Colorado's tech and business leadership is deteriorating. Governor, what was your response when you saw that letter, and how has it transformed the work of this task force?
Well, I think it, really should spur us into action. I mean, we want to make sure Colorado is the best state to do business, to raise a family, to start a business, to grow a business. And some of our indicators are very strong, like our skills and talent of our workforce. Others are challenging, like the cost of living, which is why we are very much focused on removing barriers to new housing being built and making it easier for homes, condos to be built, especially near job centers. But I think the first step that we really initiated based on the letter is, hey, let's hear from businesses and drill down to a granular level. What do we actually need to do to make Colorado the best state for business? Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been doing in Colorado Springs, in Denver, in Fort Morgan, in Grand Junction, and Durango. Virtually, we've had a number of opportunities for real Colorado small businesses to have their voices heard.
And Eve, your office has been holding conversations with employers all over the state about the challenges that they're facing. What are some of the top concerns that you're hearing?
I think every sector is different, so they all face different challenges. Mm-hmm. And when you're in rural areas, there's more limited capacity. And so some of the regulations that we've seen have direct impact to some of those companies. So I think it's regulations, it's increasing competitiveness with other states in terms of the talent pool, making sure that we're more competitive. It's affordability challenges. It's just the environment is getting increasingly more competitive, and we're facing headwinds at the national and global level.
Governor Polis, another concern employers have is the cost of living here, and in particular, the high cost of housing. We know this is also incredibly complicated to try to fix. What policies are you considering that might help the business community, and how much can you accomplish in your remaining months as governor?
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. Housing, like anything, is a function of supply and demand. In Colorado, the demand is very high because we have low unemployment, strong economy. People want to live here, great quality of life. But supply has been artificially constrained. People haven't been allowed to build homes, to split lots. Mm-hmm. We've been focused on making it easier to build accessory dwelling units, to have condos and more density in big parts of cities, getting rid of government-imposed parking requirements, like you have to have 2 parking spots even if you only want 1. So we've really been and are focused on taking apart these artificial government regulations that add cost to housing. And so you're going to see the benefit of that over a year or two, right? Because housing doesn't build itself in a month, no. But it's already happening. And it's very exciting, not just for our economy. Yes, it is for our economy, but fundamentally because people need a place to afford to live in our great state.
True. Governor Polis, a report last week revealed that the Trump administration convened a meeting in the White House to discuss retaliating against Colorado for its treatment of election conspiracist Tina Peters. How have the second Trump administration's actions affected the business climate here?
Well, they've been devastating nationally for the business climate. In particular, the tariffs in terms of his economic policies have just raised the cost of doing business across the board. And for individuals, a lot of those are passed on. So that's the single biggest hit. Obviously, some of the hit to university research across the country. that when you look at successful innovation ecosystems, they often rely on tech transfer from universities. That's a little bit of a longer lead. But the immediate hit, we met with, manufacturers here in Colorado that are looking to move overseas because they simply can't have confidence in their supply chain because of the tariffs.
Governor Polis, you've styled yourself as a very pro-business Democrat. Some of these trends and criticisms must be tough to stomach. What do you think they say about your tenure as governor?
Well, I think the biggest factors hurting business, frankly, is tariffs. And I think I've been very vociferously opposed to them from the start and, taken on President Trump every step of the way. Even in housing, our analysis is that tariffs, because a lot of the items that are used in constructing homes are sourced elsewhere. And it's one of the reasons I've been very outspoken about pushing back on not just the tariffs themselves, but just sort of the negative trade policy that's also closed off overseas markets to made in Colorado and grown in Colorado products.
Yeah. What kind of products are we talking about?
Well, every action is an equal and opposite reaction. So when we are randomly tariffing other countries, it hurts us, it hurts American consumers. Mm-hmm. But then inevitably, they are putting reciprocal tariffs on American products. As I said, I've heard from a number of manufacturing companies looking to move overseas because they can no longer export to a global market from the United States. They're not, looking just to leave Colorado. They can't be in Texas or California or Florida either. We're all subject to the same tariffs. Mm-hmm. They basically are going to have to move to places like Mexico or even to East Asia or China. So, this was, it was a great plan for China. They're thriving on this crazy American tariff regime, but it's a terrible plan for the United States. And the other piece of the failed Trump economic agenda is socialism. They've bought shares, ownership in over 30 companies, right? Intel has been widely publicized. Federal government now owns 15% of Intel. Steel company, they own a golden share in where a government apparatchik under Trump is involved in strategic decisions and has a veto right over decisions by U.S. Steel. In Colorado, we can speak out against these. We can be hospitable to trade. We can denounce socialism. But this is happening across the entire country.
Finally, Eve, the goal is to have a final report and some recommendations from the Competitiveness Council and the listening sessions by this fall. What happens then?
So through the roadmap, we're going to identify these economic indicators, and then we can hold ourselves accountable to whether we're meeting those desired economic indicators. And then we're having policies that flow through. How do we make our state more competitive based on these desired economic indicators? So we're going to track that over time, how the state is performing. There'll be a dashboard that we can show to the public. And we're also going to deliver to the legislature and to the next governor a public roadmap that identifies where can we come together and provide solutions to make sure that we remain competitive.
That's Eve Lieberman, Executive Director of the state's Economic Development Office, and Governor Jared Polis. They spoke with me about efforts to address concerns about Colorado's business economy, including a series of listening sessions they're holding with employers across the state. We'll have links where you can learn more in the show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.